Hello and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel and to another preview. We are back under the lights at Cinselbank for, it seems like, the first time in quite a while. I think this is the first Tuesday night home match since Oxford on Halloween, and we are of course at home to a Shrewsbury side who we were supposed to be playing on FA Cup third round weekend, and this is obviously a rearranged fixture. And to talk all things Shrewsbury, I am joined by Ollie from Salopcast. How are we doing, Ollie?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for joining me. Look, I guess we're kind of just going to start at this point. You are sat 19th in the table. Is that a fair position in terms of your performances over the course of the season? Or do you think that you are a side that are better or maybe even worse than that kind of 19th place? Talk us through the season.
Yeah, we have a team that should be not massively higher than that, but we shouldn't really be in a relegation fight with the squad that we have. Unfortunately, we chose a young head coach that didn't really get a tune from the players. And Paul Hurst has come in and completely changed the style of play. We were an awful football team under Matt Taylor, unfortunately. And it's I personally didn't put this in public, but privately, in September I said he wouldn't make Christmas, and somehow he made it to Christmas, and somehow he didn't change until we got to the last week in January, which is quite a poor time to change your manager.
Well, that's it. I've got to be honest, I was a little bit worried for your guys' season. Obviously, there was a lot of kind of upheaval last summer, wasn't there?
Yeah.
At the football club. So I'll be honest, I'm kind of with you. I was surprised to have seen him last quite as long as he did. But yeah, obviously, you sort of alluded to it there. Paul Hurst coming in. Have you become considerably better? And if so, in which areas?
Yeah, and we have improved to a measure that is in some ways quite unbelievable. So there's some stats that I had used on the podcast last night, which was shared by a former player of ours called Alex Rodman, and he was on BBC Shropshire this weekend, and he shared these stats. So when Matt Taylor was in charge, for ball possession, we were 23rd in the league, and now we're 16th. Shots per game was 23rd in the league, and now we're second in the last games. We were 21st for crosses, now for second, and then passes into the final third. We were 22nd, and now we're first. And we've gone from being the 19th worst team in terms of pressing and winning the ball back to first. And we've signed one player. That's quite a remarkable turnaround, isn't it? And just another example among many of how important it is to have a really good manager or head first team coach, and the kind of the impact a manager can have, and it's unbelievable. So it was his first. He came back in charge. First game was away at Northampton, who are doing all right this season. I know they're having a very comfortable season for themselves. We went from a 5-3-2 formation and literally lumping it at Burton away over Christmas. It's one of the worst football performances I've ever seen, and it was so bad that the Shrewsbury Town fans started chanting, "Matt Taylor, your football is," I guess the final word. And then a few weeks later, we go to Northampton, play 4-3-3, and score a 9-pass move to score. It's absolutely phenomenal. And we were unlucky not to beat Barnsley, unlucky not to score against Wigan. And yeah, unfortunately, I've won 2 games out of the last 6, and picked up a couple of draws. So yeah, a couple more wins. And I think a point, I'm jumping ahead now, a point would be nice against you guys, but you guys are having a decent season. But yeah, I think we'll be okay. But it's, we look at our team, we've got some really good players for this level. Not like amazing or anything, not saying we should be in the players for anything, but we have got more than enough to be a boring mid-table team in League One.
That's fair enough. And I've got to be honest, those stats are very worrying to hear, being sort of the next side that are going to be facing. It definitely seems to be a bit of a sort of resurgent form that you guys are in. And one of the big things that's obviously been picked up from your season is the lack of goals. And I think especially the lack of away goals. Well, if we exclude Saturday's performance away at Reading, of course. But is that something that, I mean, even if not on the face value, you are very much expecting to change by the end of the season, and you're going to expect to pick up a lot more? Because what has been that big issue in terms of goals? Was it just that style of play that Taylor was playing?
Style of play, it was absolutely atrocious. When you've guys have been there, when you've got a manager or head coach, and you think this is not working. This is just not working. It just doesn't look right. Doesn't feel right. Nothing that they do seems to work. The players don't seem happy. They seem disenfranchised. And since Paul Hurst has been here in these 6 games, there's only 1 game we haven't scored in. Our goal record is utterly appalling. But to be fair to Paul Hurst, since he's been here, we've scored twice. At Northampton, and we then scored against Derby. We scored against Barnsley. And we scored 3 against Reading, who have got one of the better home records in the division. I think they're like 5th or something like that, best home record. I think Dan Ado, unfortunately, was injured, unwell, didn't play on Saturday. He's potentially back for the game against Lincoln. But we've got some decent players like Tom Bayliss, scored a really nice goal on Saturday. Jordan Shipley scored a cracker as well. And Tom Bloxon, who we brought back on loan from Morecambe, who's one of our own, scored a screamer as well. And we're creating chances. We were desperately unlucky not to score against Wigan, and that meant we'd have scored in every game. And considering we went for, I think it was almost like, 8 games or something like that without scoring a goal at one point, and we have been so poor going forward. And that for me is player instruction, manager instruction to the players. Basically trying not to lose games. And Paul Hurst has completely turned it on its head, and we've been a much more attacking outfit as a result.
Well, hopefully, obviously our defence, being as strong as it has been for most of the season, can handle that, because it does sound like you're going to be coming to us with kind of a hope for attack. Speaking of hopes, the end of the season, we are now in that kind of final run-in. What have you got? 12 matches left of the season, the exact same number of games played as us. Obviously, we've already mentioned, you are down in 19th place, but 5 points above Cheltenham. Obviously, I know Cheltenham do have a couple of games in hand. Do you think, the back end of the season, with this kind of resurgent form that you're now finding and these performances that you're having now under Paul Hurst, that you are going to be able to climb up to, you're drawing on points with 15th at the minute? Do you think that's sort of a position that you want to be aiming for?
Yeah, I think we need to get to, I think this season is going to be a bit different to some. I think you might need to get over 50 points to survive. But we're quite fortunate in the next few weeks. So we obviously play you guys, which is a tough away fixture. Then we've got Blackpool at home. Luckily, Blackpool on the road are not actually that good. Obviously, they've got a great result against Bolton on the weekend. But then we have Port Vale, Exeter and Carlisle. I think those 3 games are going to not make or break, but it's either that's going to mean that it's going to go down to the wire, or, if we win those 3 games, get those 9 points, we're chilling for the rest of the season. And I'm hopeful we'll get a result against Port Vale, maybe get a draw somewhere there, but they're doing terrible. And then at home to Exeter and home to Carlisle, 2 teams obviously have to do quite a leg to get here. I'm hoping that the Carlisle game will be an easy one. It was quite funny. I said that Carlisle were poor, and a lot of their fans seemed to get very upset when I said that. Actually said we're 2 poor teams. So I actually said Shrewsbury were poor as well. And that, yes, I'm really hoping we can beat them at home, because I'm sure my timeline will be full of Carlisle fans.
No, absolutely, and obviously the way their season is very much going as well.
Very much so.
Which, I'll be honest, I mean, a slight tangent, I was actually quite surprised, because we played them towards the start of the season, and I was actually rather impressed with how they were set up, but maybe that was more of an indictment on how we were playing in that game, rather than a sort of compliment to them. Talking about sort of how teams line up, you sort of slightly mentioned there, potentially a 4-3-3 is something that Paul Hurst has very much wanted to be playing with you guys. Is that how we're expecting you to be lining up tomorrow?
No. So since we signed 1 player in the January transfer window, a lad called Hinchley, who was the under-21 captain at Brighton.
Right.
And he plays, so basically we're now playing Carl Winchester and him in the middle, and then play more of a 4-2-3-1. But quite a dynamic, it's League One football. So, our wingers do defend, and Bayliss does tuck in as well. So it's a subtle, you could call it maybe 4-4-1-1. Sometimes you could call it 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. But we'll have Bayliss will be supporting one of the strikers, and we'll have two wingers with two people sitting in the middle. I think that's how I expect us to line up.
That's going to be an interesting one to see how that goes up against us then. And I guess we'll very much talk about that, because how do you see the game going? You kind of mentioned you wouldn't be too upset with a draw, but how do you see the game unfolding? And then I guess round off with a score prediction.
Yeah, it was funny because on Saturday we were 2-0 up after 5 minutes. It's quite a crazy start to the game. I hope that the start of the game isn't quite as mad, because sometimes even scoring so many goals so early in the game is going to put you under maybe a little bit of pressure. But I think this might be a draw. Obviously, both teams played on Saturday. Obviously, a little bit of tie legs, a bit of rotation. So I'd be happy with a draw. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we lost, and we're not on that kind of stage at the moment. But a draw would be nice. A 1-1 draw or something like that would be fine for us. Pick up no injuries, and then go into the next game on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from our point of view, I've got to be honest with. There's a lot of talk from our supporters because of the recent run we've been on. 4 wins out of our last 5 games, 8 unbeaten now. A lot of fans are very much kind of looking up and even discussing playoffs. Now, it's very, very far out of reach, but it is something that
we were there last season. We had we had a bit of a run like you having now. It was a bit earlier in the season. We came out of January, then we won like loads of 6 games in a row, whatever, and that does fly you up the division. I would say to go from 48 points all the way up to Cats Oxford is probably going to be a little bit of a tall order. But maybe we can try and do you a favour and get a result against Blackpool on the weekend.
Well, potentially, and obviously bearing in mind Oxford not playing tomorrow night as well, there is a small chance that we could go from within.
You've got to dream. If you don't dream as a Lincoln fan about getting the playoffs, there's no point, is there?
No, exactly. I think from our point of view as well, the issues that we had going into sort of Christmas and January, we knew what they were. There was a good few injuries there, but time on the grass, getting players back, it's kind of come at the right time. We sort of expected this run to start happening soon, and we're glad now that it sort of has. So we're kind of showing the best of our ability. But so I think for that, as much as I don't think we're going to get playoffs. I mean, we can basically drop points in 3 of our remaining 12 games, right? It's a pipe dream, realistically. So that's just to hit 76 points or something daft like that. Like I say, it's a bit of a pipe dream, but if we want to at least keep those kind of hopes alive, we realistically have to be beating.
The momentum works, doesn't it? It's good to end the season on a high.
Exactly. So if there is any kind of chance of doing that, I do think we're going to have to pick up this victory. I'll be honest, I've just been guest on a radio show tonight, and I said on there 3-0 victory for Lincoln. I just feel like under the lights, this could be a bit of a big one. The form that we're on, the fans behind them, I think we're going to want to be able to get a couple of goals and hopefully keep a clean sheet against you guys with the strength of our defence. And obviously on paper, I know it doesn't work like that, but on paper, obviously you guys having sort of issues with goal scoring throughout the whole season, but as you've broken down for us tonight, that isn't actually the way it's going to expect to necessarily go, considering you've improved on that front.
Yeah, our defensive record isn't too bad. We haven't really been. I think we like 3 goals against Barnsley. But in terms of goals against, we've shipped a few, but it's not. We haven't got not the worst defense, but it'll be interesting to see how we set up. We did go a bit more defensive against Reading in the second half, and kind of shut them out. So it'd be interesting to see how we approach this game on Tuesday. Depends on injuries, and we've got a few injuries picked up on the weekend, but fingers crossed we'll be all right.
Well, that's it. Hopefully it'll be a really good game. Obviously, from a Lincoln point of view, hopefully we can get the result. And look, from a from a kind of League One point of view, very much hope that you guys can pick up, obviously, towards the end of this season and make sure that you are hitting that mid-table obscurity, because I'd rather enjoy being in the same league as Shrewsbury. I do not mind an away day there. So, Ollie, thank you very much for joining me on that one. Like I said, good luck for tomorrow and the rest of the season.
Cool, brilliant. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, good luck on your playoff hunt.
Cheers. We'll certainly need it if we were to actually have a playoff hunt. And for everyone watching, thank you so much. Up the Imps.